Welcome to 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K Plus movies to randomly watch, whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. This is Colin.
And this is Niall.
And this is random movie number 14537, Stick, from 1985. Just to give you a little bit of a introduction to it, it's got a 31 out of 100 Metascore. User score is to be determined because not enough people have actually reviewed it. It runs for 109 minutes and it cost $22 million to make, and it grossed $8.5 million. So there were not a lot of happy people surrounding this movie, and two major players in that are obviously the director and star of the movie, Burt Reynolds, and Elmore Leonard, who wrote the actual novel it's based on. But he was happily paid $350,000 for this screenplay. But
Really?
we'll get into that. Oh yeah. We'll get into that a bit later, the ins and outs and the drama surrounding the production of this movie. So it's your turn to do the plot, so over to you.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because the plot doesn't make a whole heap of sense. It starts off Bert's on a train like a hobo, in a cargo carriage, jumps off, danders down the road, bumps into one of his mates. Hey, let's have a pint. Starts off by setting fire to his backside, beating the crap out of him. It's a good start. Anyway, the straight from the start, the whole thing's just awful. But anyway, it continues. He goes out driving around with his buddy, and his buddy goes, "Hey, we've got a job for you," and he's like, "Well, as long as it's not drugs." So he goes and does a drug deal that goes horrifically wrong. His buddy gets shot a bunch of times. Burt legs it, sets fire to a field and several people. Then he goes off and knives another of his buddies, and the bad guys come looking.
They do.
They do. Then there's a montage, which is really interesting, where it's basically a montage of Burt just dandering around the place, doing a bit of weights, driving around the boat.
I picked up on that too.
Yeah, and the other part of the montage is the bad guys looking for him, and it's just, why montage? It was a very interesting choice, but I suppose it doesn't add to the plot. Anyway,
I liked the montage. I called it the stupid Rocky sequence, and I love the way it just finished with him jumping into the sea with a spear.
Why not? Makes
and also,
perfect sense.
I think during that, I think maybe before that montage or after that montage is the best quote of the movie. I don't know if you picked up on it.
Was that the chickens one?
Yes.
Was it? I've got it written down because I didn't want to forget it. It looks like they ran out of chickens. What
Exactly.
an amazing line! When I heard that, I was like, yes, that's quote of the day.
Yeah,
best part of the movie,
sure.
right there.
And it wasn't really that funny either. He wasn't doing it for a laugh. He was actually serious.
It was unintentionally hilarious. But yeah. Anyway, I digress on the whole plot thing, if there is any. Bad guys come looking. Something about his daughter, who he doesn't want to see, but he sees her anyway. Then the bad guys, he sees the bad guys, and he talks to his mate and says, "Oh, these bad guys are coming." And he says, "Why don't you hang out with?" His buddy says, "Why don't you hang out with bad guy number 2's buddy, who's rich? Then you can get at him."
Barry,
ably played by George Segal, who
hated the way he played it. Hated it.
I actually kind of like George Segal, but in this, he just hams it up to 110%, and it just awful, pure terrible. And utter terrible. Anyway, he's a terrible, rubbish caricature of a rich dude. There's little more definition to his character given than that, other than he likes hanging out with crooks. So he's completely two-dimensional, like every other character in it. Anyway, he hires Burt because, he's being a dick to him, and he says, "Hey, I like you." Makes perfect sense in an 80s movie, I guess. Bad guys figure out he's working for his friend, leaves him alone for a bit. Bad guy number one gets a bit miffed. And then people fall out of building. Oh, sorry, I skipped over Cecil. Cecil, big guy who Burt took the job off, comes around saying, "Oi, I want my job back, yet, jerks." So Burt covers him in petrol and tells him to leave, which everybody applauds, which I found kind of unusual. Anyway, people fall out of a building in half an hour later. Oh, actually, just to circle back to something you said at the start, I don't know which version I watched, but my version was an hour and 45 minutes. I must have got the director's cut.
Oh.
So I got an extra nearly 40 minutes of fun on this one. I really regret all of that. I may have seen stuff that you didn't want to see.
Might
I
have
didn't
been
want to
the
see.
credits.
Maybe. But it was shocking. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Oh, bad guy number one is also into voodoo. I'm not sure what it added to this movie, but there was that weird element. Yeah, I can't really give much to the plot other than that. The two tertiary bad guys in a confrontation, they just jump out of a building. And what I loved there was how it was shot. It was basically obviously two dummies just flung out of a large hotel, which
Yes, but
looks amazing.
It was a good shot though from the top. That was a very good Hans Gruber death for Moke.
For Moke, yes, that was okay until it then cut to the shot from the bottom, and it was somebody from Dunn's stores got a dummy and chucked it out a window with the same clothes as Mook on him.
So why did they fall at the? See, that's the thing. It's a very muddy plot. It gets muddy near the end. And Burt Reynolds said this. He said he gave the movie as Elmer Leonard wrote the screenplay. The producers saw it and said, "Nope, we're going to reshoot the second half of the movie." So it gets to that point where you actually don't know. Like, he's looking for $5,000, Burt Reynolds from Chucky.
But that makes no sense either.
Well, it keeps on going on, and then you think he's made friends with Nestor, but then Nestor sends Mocha after him and Chucky and says, "Get rid of him," and then that's pretty much, they fall over the building because Chucky wants his drugs back, and then Stick goes, "All right, I'm going to Nestor's gaff and I'm going to get rid of them all in the old-fashioned way." Then suddenly his daughter turns up at Nestor's place, but he tells her to get down, and she does, and then shoots everybody. Yeah, and then it's the end, and then it's nearly the end, and then two cars meet in the middle of the motorway.
The car phone scene was
terrible,
beautiful, romantic. That's what I got out of that. It's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
So you can tell near the end. It was a rushed job and reshot. Like, it really just gets to a very quick ending where he goes and starts shooting things up. Now, let me say this, and let nobody ever tell me that I don't put the work in for this podcast. I read the novel this week.
Get away.
That's right.
So, is it as brilliant and interesting as the movie?
Well, it's a whole lot of nothing happens in the novel as well, but it makes more sense as a sort of A to Z plot. You know, the way Stick randomly asked people, his boss Bruce and Kyle, about stocks and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that carries on. Instead of doing shooty up, he basically scams Chuck out of $70,000. Pretends he's doing a movie, or that producer that came in and made a laugh of himself. He kind of then he doesn't get money. So then Stick goes to Chucky and says he's brought back a better script and it's not for tax fraud, 70,000, blah blah blah. It's very complicated. It gets a bit complicated. Then he puts 70K into a bank account that Stick has. Then he goes somehow he gets to Chuck's place and Moke goes over the building, but Chuck doesn't. But then Stick is like going, all right, I'm out of here. You need to call the police. And Chuck goes, I'm not going to prison. And Stick goes, all right, well, I'll see you later. And then a gun goes off in the room behind him. So Chuck actually kills himself. And so he gets the money, right? But then at the end, he's back at Barry's and he's saying, right, I'm out of here. I'm not working for you anymore. And then he says, oh, before you go, this lawyer's letter came for you today. It's from your ex-wife. She wants $10,000 for every 7 years that you weren't around for your daughter. That's $70,000. And then the last sentence of the story book just confused me, and I couldn't find anybody on the internet to actually explain this last sentence. He hears this and he walks around, and basically the last sentence of the novel goes, Stick walks around to the other side of the car garage. There you are, Stick thought. I don't know what it was there.
I'm assuming it was the car. I'm only guessing from the movie that he had a bit of a graw for the English car he was driving.
I don't know.
Because he
went
out of his way to say bonnet for some reason in the movie.
Because it was a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
But that's So we've confused everybody with the novel story, but that gives a good background because the whole entire plot changed and nobody was happy with it. Elmer Leonard hated the way it was done. Burt Reynolds said the first half is his, the second half is a studio. And Reynolds was devastated after, and he wouldn't direct for another 5 years or something after it. So,
well, if the first half was his, I actually thought the first half was almost worse than the second half.
Nothing really happened. Yeah, at least some things started happening in the second half. Some things I just want to point out that stuck out in my mind as well. That just were a bit. You just kind of look at it and go, "What just happened?" Toilet Spider-Man.
Yeah. Why was he? And why didn't he jump on him? Why didn't he drop on him when the guy walked in the door? Why did he wait till the guy turned around and started to leave, giving him an ample chance to see Burt Reynolds, who's wearing dark clothes against a bright ceiling?
And
God.
Another one that stood out to me near the end was just hyper violence and the way Moke just punched the maid in the face.
Yeah, that wasn't really. Oh, what I liked about that scene was when he shot the other guy. What was his name now? Damn.
Yeah.
That lad, the guy who shared a room with Burt. Anyway, he shot him.
Purnell,
and he went,
I think.
Cornell, that's it. And he went back about 30 foot, which was quite impressive.
Yes.
from a handgun.
I think it was a 50 Magnum, so maybe it's accurate.
It just puts a hole in you. It doesn't make you fly into orbit.
Anyway, right. We spent 13 minutes on the plot, and we shouldn't have given this much time to the plot. I gave it 1 out of 5.
That is an exact match what I gave it, and I was feeling generous with that one.
Yeah. All right. So I think hand in hand with the plot was acting. I think nobody really gave a good turn here. It's very weird. It felt very ad-libby at times. It felt like Burt Reynolds, the director, just kind of said, all right, let's just have a conversation, because it was very casual, very, very strange way they
it was really annoying because while these aren't top-of-the-range actors, there were some good players in here.
Oh, yeah.
Like Charles Durning,
yes.
That was one of the bad guys, was shockingly bad, and he's been quite good in a lot. Like I can remember him in, what was it, June, the Lynch version of it back in the late 70s. He played a excellent Duke Harkonnen. Really, really scary, intimidating guy, like a fantastic bad guy. This shocking, as we mentioned.
Terrible.
Oh, just rubbish. George Segal, He's done
Not
loads of
good.
stuff, but in this, again, terrible. Candice Bergen, um, two-dimensional, pointless character, didn't add anything to the story.
Nothing, and like,
Then,
yeah, because the whole scam stock thing didn't go anywhere. Her role was pointless, basically.
oh,
The
absolutely.
just to before we move on, just because Charles Durning, he has had two Oscar nominations for um, Best Little Whorehouse in the West, I think it's called, and To Be or Not to Be, and he was in Lethal Weapon too.
He
Not
was.
two, Lethal Weapon, the first one. And George Segal was not. Oh, he got an Oscar for Ship of Fools in '65, and he got a Golden Globe in '73 for A Touch of Class. So like they're coming into this movie with a lot of
A lot
caliber
of clout,
behind them.
absolutely, yeah.
Um, a couple of other people I want to point out. I want to point out Moke because Dar Robinson.
Because he's not an actor for a start.
No, he's a stunt man, and in the novel, Moke is actually a southern cowboy drawl person. So when I saw the albino pop up, I was going, "Oh, wow,
That's
bit
different.
different." Yeah, but
What
I
what
really liked
what
the
what Dar Robinson, the stuntman chap, he's not albino. He's ginger in real life.
that's
So
right,
I don't know why they went with that.
and he's very well known in the stunt world.
Well, up
He
until
did
he
a
did
lot
the
of.
next year where he croaked it.
Yes, he died. He is. Did you read the story about it? He basically was doing a
Yep.
simple thing. The medical team had gone away because his last motorbike stunt
He was
was the
going around the
last thing.
corner in a particularly slow chase, and they were expecting no problems, and he just fell off his bike and hit a tree and got impaled. Like what a
I read
crap
so.
way for a man like who's got a massive stunt career, and that's how he goes out.
Well, we've got two different sources then because I read that he drove off a cliff.
Really? No,
Yes.
well, if I might be wrong on this, but prior on that same day, he drove off a cliff 4 times as part of a retake on a movie intentionally, and no injuries. But then later that day, he was doing a routine bike chase and came off the bike. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I will. I'll just look this up now while we're talking, just to make sure we don't have two different data points here.
Depends which site we googled to get it.
Yeah, we need to get multiple sources. Actually, you know what? I was wrong about Charles Durning. He wasn't in Lethal Weapon. This Dar Robinson, one of his last movies was a stunt in Lethal Weapon,
Oh, really?
and it was dedicated to him actually. And there was a documentary made in '88 for Dar Robinson as well that shows his very long, illustrious career with. Yeah, so it reads while filming a routine high speed run by the camera, Robinson rode his stunt motorcycle past the breaking point of a turn and straight off a cliff to his death.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so that's not very good. A couple of other interesting people that were in this movie that may not stick out to you. You know, Bobby, the bartender.
Yeah, yeah. The young girl at start.
Yeah, who was very smiley and very kind of. It felt like the Burt Reynolds just said, "I'm just going to come up to the bar and let's just ad lib stuff." She was very casual with her lines, whatever. Her name is Sachi Parker. She's the daughter of Shirley MacLaine,
Oh,
and she's all that, which means she's also Warren Beatty's niece. And I know you like this. She was also in season 4 episode of The Next Generation called First Contact. She played a nurse called Tava. You remember when Riker goes down and disguises himself as an alien, and he gets into an accident and they scan him and all his organs are human. And like,
yeah,
what on
yeah,
earth
yeah.
is this?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. And also Katie, who's
His daughter in it,
Stick's
is it?
daughter,
Yeah.
Trisha Lee Fisher, Carrie Fisher's half sister.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of and which is very apt because a lot of couple of Carrie Fisher's relatives to this week were up in arms about her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They weren't invited, so very apt that that popped up.
May the
What
float has
else?
just gone past.
I thought the father daughter when they first met was weird.
It was creepy. It was verging on inappropriate. It really was horrible. It wasn't a father and daughter meeting up. It was just wrong.
Acting 1 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it 0.5.
Oh,
I just thought for the people that was in it, for the actors that they had available, there's no excuse for it to be that bad. So I
true.
go with 0.5.
Good for you. All right, sound brackets track. I just wanted to mention the two. The music was terrible, but the two guys that composed the music for this actually, they've had a couple of hits back in the day. Joseph Conlon, he won a few Emmys. He didn't do the main theme tune of The Equalizer, but he did something in it. I thought he was the dude behind that cool The Equalizer theme tune, but not. His buddy in this is fellow composer Barry Braham. He did create some cool songs in the Warriors movie '79. Amazing music in that movie, and
Yeah.
also the Final Battle. But yeah, if you Google or if you go to YouTube and look up the Warriors main theme, it's amazing, and you can tell there's little bits of stings here during this movie where you can see get a little bit of funk, but it's just jingly jangly reggae terribleness.
Yeah, there was a bit of reggae at the start in the tune as they were
Yeah,
driving the van, and I just didn't get why it was just crammed in there for the crack. It was
I
a
don't
weird
know.
one.
And then it ends. The whole entire movie ends with a soppy song called "I Don't Think I'm Ready for You," which is what Kyle, Candice Bergen's character, says in the movie. And this is by a Canadian called Anne Murray. She has sold 55 million albums worldwide.
Wow.
And get this for a fun fact. She covered in 1969 Bob Dylan's "I'll Be Your Baby Tonight."
Really? Wow. I missed
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. No, I had to do my research for that one.
Fair play.
Music or sound brackets track 1 out of 5.
Yeah, same as like that. There was no redeeming qualities.
So we finish off with production then, and I think we've mentioned quite a lot of it. Like the background to this movie is terrible. Like Burt Reynolds, was sort of declining at this stage. We all know him from Smoking the Bandit, Cannonball Run. What else? Don't really remember because when I was growing up, that's what I sort of remembered about it.
He did
I
have a bit of a
remembered about
resurgence
him.
a few years later with Boogie Nights, and he was
Oh
very
yeah,
good in that. I thought.
yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
it's a completely different ball game.
yeah.
He
I
he,
don't know.
he
I
wasn't
don't
directing.
know, but I just don't think he knew how to play Stick. Like if you read the novel, Stick's a very sort of I don't know. He's a man of the street, and he says a couple of cool things in it. But in this, he just wasn't. He didn't know how to play it. Like there's a few moments. Do you remember the part where he puts on the previous chauffeur's hat, and it's just a stupid comical moment that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And he keeps the hat on for a long time and just looks around in an
Yeah,
oversized hat. It was bad.
but the problem is, uh, as a director, it would have been his job to slap himself down and say, "No, that's just rubbish. Stop doing that." But clearly, he thought it was funny and kept it in. So
Yeah, I think he
I think
was.
that's where the problem is. His direction murdered every acting piece in the movie.
I think he wanted it to try to be a bit Smokey and the Bandit in times and try to get the humor in, but it just
Wrong
wasn't
movie.
that role. Wrong
Yeah.
movie, wrong role. Let me just tell you something about. So when the production crew the studio saw it and said, "Hey, you're redoing the last half." They brought in a dude called Joseph Stinson to do the rewrite, and his claim to fame is that he wrote Sudden Impact with Clint Eastwood, and the
Oh,
famous line in that movie,
you'll have to
"Go
tell me.
ahead, make
Oh,
my
make my
day."
day.
Yeah. So
Nice.
he couldn't make his day with this movie or anybody else's day with the rewrite of this movie, but we can remember him for that one. A couple of people in the background I just wanted to mention. Nick McLean, who did the cinematography, he did the Goonies, and he
So
also,
that's really interesting because the cinematography in the Goonies is quite good, but the cinematography in this movie is like everything else, appalling.
yeah, I
Like the
wonder if
choice
he
of
was just
camera shot, the,
handcuffed.
the editing. Like there's continuity problems from scene to scene. There's jumps in camera shots where it just does not flow. Yeah, it's he didn't do a good job today on this one.
No, he also was cinematographer for a couple of Friends episodes or even seasons, which was interesting.
Oh wow.
Just another name that popped out because it kind of brought me back to watching these movies in the 80s as reruns. Jennings Lang, which is a perfect producer's name. He produced all those airport movies, Airport 75, 77, 79, all those ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not
The
airplane because he would
No,
have got a lot of
definitely not.
he would have got a lot of kudos for airplane, but not. I've seen airport. They were movies. I loved them back in the
Yeah,
day. I won't lie, but yeah,
yeah. And then just another person who was a producer was Robert Daly, and he had a massive relationship with Clint Eastwood from 71 to 80 with all his through his sort of golden patch.
Hmm.
So yeah, I thought the just to go right back to the start to finish this one off, I just even just the aerial shot coming like going into him in the train at the start of the movie was just shaky and dodgy and badly lit, and
Yeah.
it just set the
It felt
scene.
cheap. That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
It felt like a really. It felt like they were using poor equipment, and it felt like the cameramen didn't know their trade, which is really weird.
yeah. Well, yeah, I gave production 1 out of 5.
I was a bit more stingy and I gave it 0.5.
Yeah, you
I,
did not like this movie.
there wasn't a lot to like.
Well, two reviews that were on Metacritic. The top one was only 63, but it was a satisfactory, if fairly standard, action entertainment from AP's Bob Thomas, which that was very generous of him.
Exceedingly generous.
Yeah, there was a bunch of low ones. I could have picked any of them, but the alphabetical one was Time Out. Gave it 20 out of 100. It's deeply flawed by Reynolds' less than lustrous but screen hogging performance, by a torturous but dull plot, and by leaden direction, one for completists or random movie reviewer podcastists only.
Did this one I agree with. Yeah.
All right, so I think we haven't left any stone unturned with that one for this for this movie. Any last words of summarization? I think I've got through all my points.
To be honest, I'm happy I don't have to watch this movie ever again. it yeah,
Damning! What a damning statement.
it was interesting. But I was trying to watch it with my wife, and she just walked out of the room after half an hour. She said, "Just no."
That's well. There you go. Let's put an underline under this one. All right, so it's that time of the episode where we choose the next episode's movie. So I have it all laid out here on my phone. There's 15,487 right now, which is going up every week. So here we go. It is rolling, and the number is, oh dear, 15326.
Whoa,
15,326.
that's got
Now
to
I
be an
have to,
amazing movie.
yeah, hopefully. Let's see. All right, 15,326. That's not going to be hard to find. It's just one page from the end.
Christ.
Okay, let's see. 15326 is...
Stick to.
It's called Movie 43 from
Ah.
2013. It is rated 8. No, it's got an 18. Oh, Bob Odenkirk directed it. Interesting. All right, I'll just give the synopsis here. Or do I? Can I? Oh, it's a feature film comprised of short comedy segments.
You've
That's
got
good.
Hugh
That's all.
Jackman in it.
It's got a bunch of people in it. It's got
Kate Winslet. Oh my God, Emma Stone.
Elizabeth
Big
Banks.
cast.
It must not do very well with the comedy. That's pretty much, I'm guessing, what happens. Yeah, that's it. That's our next one, Movie 43. What happened with Bob Odenkirk's direction in this one? We will find out in the next episode. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra.